What's going on, guys? Michael here from Just Another Car Enthusiast, and today we're going to be doing a video on the 5 things I love about my 2013 Ford Focus ST with the ST3 package. Now, if you guys are in the market to buy a Focus ST and you're kind of looking around on YouTube to see what other people's problems have been having or what they like about it, what they don't like about it, make sure to go check out my other video on the 5 things I hate, which will be linked down in the description, so that way you can have an unbiased, kind of weigh the options evenly, so that way you can make the right choice. But so we're gonna get started into the video on 5 things I love about this car, because I could honestly make a video on 20 things I love about this car, but I'm gonna try to keep it as simple and condensed down as I possibly can, and instead of calling out the little things about this car, I try to do the major things that, well, you guys would want to, the things that you guys would love about it just as much as I do. So to get into the list, number 5, I have to say, is the sound that this engine makes. Now, it is a bit cheating because Ford used the tube that they used to go from the filter into the intake manifold has chambers in it, and it's molded so that just like whenever you blow air through an instrument, it makes a beautiful noise. And the intake noise of this car is just absolutely just gorgeous. Now, keep in mind, I do have a K&N air filter, and I have the top that sits on top of the filter that typically would keep the hot air out of the engine. I took that off just as a joke to see if it would make a difference in any way, shape, or form. And I like it a little bit better with it off, and it gives a bit more intake noise. But just take a listen to this. So as you guys can see, it's very, just this beautiful, you can hear the turbo spooling up, you can hear the blow-off valve. It's just a beautiful setup. I really like how Ford did that, just because it's part of the whole experience. You're sitting in the car, you're driving down the road, you set it back into the third or second, depending on how fast you're going, and you just let it go. And that turbo, you can hear it start to spool up, and it just makes these beautiful turbo noises. And that's kind of what the Focuses are known for, the STs, because they just did it so good. It's just all around a very good setup. But so the next thing I love about this car has to be, now keep in mind I'm reviewing this as an ST3, so I have all the upgrades at the ST, basically as many upgrades as you can besides the backup camera. I don't think this doesn't have a backup camera. I think they offered that. But anyway, is the Recaro racing seats. Now, if you're getting this car, do not get it without the Recaros. You don't have to get the Sony sound system, which I think that's the that's the third option. I think the 2 has the sunroof and the Recaro racing seats, which I would highly recommend. I mean, just take a look at these. They're just so comfortable. And I'm a bit of a heavier guy. I weigh about 165 to 170 pounds, and these seats just hug me just in the right places. And I've taken this thing on like a 3-4 hour car ride, and I didn't even have to get up and stretch when I was done. It's just that comfortable, and I just really, that's one of the main reasons I bought this car, is because I had all these upgrades, and the seats were just, I sat in them for the first time, and I was like, yeah, this is a hell of a car. And it also adds to the driving experience, because these are the style seats that you would typically see in, like, back when 4-cylinder car culture, back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s and stuff like that, back when the SVT Focus was out, the Eclipse, the Celica, all of that, one of the biggest things that you would do is change out the seats to racing seats, just because it was part of the whole experience. And this car mimics that so good, because these seats are just like the ones that you would typically buy for a, whenever you were going to build. They call it rice now, but back then that was just, that was part of the whole thing. That was, you got the Momo steering wheel and shift knob and the Sparta racing seats. But the Recaros, that's Ford's racing seat. They put in the Mustangs, they put them, anything that have a racing seat has the Recaros, and they do it so well. And that's definitely one of the things that I love about this car, especially driving it as a daily like I do now. So the next thing that I love about this car is that it's a four-door hatchback. Now, previously to this, the only four-door car that I had was the Cruze. And it was, I liked the way that I could fit a bunch of stuff into it, but at the same time, it wasn't fast. This is the perfect blend between reliability, family car, and a performance car. I mean, come on, you have 4 just super comfortable leather seats. Now, if you have kids, you might not want to get the ST2 with the Recaros. You might want to get the cloth because I think it'd be easier to clean and not as expensive. But if you're not, and you just have friends that ride around with you like I do, the 4-door it's so good, and it really doesn't take away from the sports car experience. And the hatchback, I don't think I will ever get a family car that's not a hatchback from now on, because there's so much space. I got this massive trunk space that I can fit a ton of shit in, and then go anywhere. Like, we went, when we went on our trip to Alexander City, Alabama, it was me and 2 other people, and with all of our stuff, 3 people with enough stuff to stay for 5 days, piled into this with extra room on top of that. And we brought cooking utensils. We brought like everything that you might need, and we had room left over. And that is just so nice to have. Because even if it's just you, or you and your girlfriend, or whatever, I think that you'd still enjoy this car. Because it's me and my wife that ride around in it a lot, but we go grocery shopping and do all the stuff that normal couples do and stuff like that, and it's just really nice to have. So that definitely is one of the things that I love about this car. Another thing I love about this car is the turbo setup. Now, when I first got into this car and I drove it, and it has a little boost gauge, as you guys can see. When I first got onto this car, the boost gauge didn't move, and I was like, is it broken? As I got into the higher gears, then it really started to move, and I really think it's cool because the way this turbo set up is down low, you have mostly engine. It's just raw engine, right? This thing is that good so that the performance you have off launch is mostly just engine, not really much with the turbo. As you get into the higher gears, second, third, or even third and fourth, really more so, you'll see that turbo gauge start to go up a little bit more. So basically, the power band doesn't taper off. It's a linear power band. And because of that, this car can compete with V6 Mustangs and V6 Camaros and V6 Challengers and older GTs and older SSs and older RTs. It's just that good. And because of that, they can also compete with others that are way ahead of them in their class, such as the WRX, which has an all-wheel drive 2-liter turbo, making more horsepower. It can compete with those. And Ford just had the right idea whenever they made this, and they geared it like that. And the transmission's no different. It's the way this transmission is geared is perfect for me. Now, 5th gear is a little bit short. You don't stay in 5th very often. You usually just jump over to 6th if you're going to be, in that range anyway. But like, for instance, you use a lot of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd on back roads, and it just, the way it's geared, it goes up to like 65 miles an hour in 2nd gear, and then way more in 3rd, and it's just, the way it pulls is just perfect. Because even if I'm going 45 miles an hour and I set it back into 3rd, I'm only sitting at like 3,000, 3,500 RPMs. It does not hesitate to just spool up and go like that. And it really does set you back in your seat. It's not crazy because it's only 250 horsepower. But the fact that they can lay it down so well that it sets you back a little bit. It gives you that butterfly feeling in your chest and your stomach that you really look forward on Mustang GTs and V8s and twin turbo V6, stuff that's crazy, that sets you back in your seat. And I've driven and rode in a lot of cars. I've rode in a brand new Stingray. I have driven an RS5. And no, those cars are way faster than this. But the way it puts it down feels similar. The way it just kind of, almost like your front end just lifts up just so. And it sets you back in just that, for that split moment, that feeling that you get. It's like heroin. It's just so good. And that's why you go and drive this car, because you want to get that feeling again. And it does not disappoint. It delivers it flawlessly every single time. Now, this car does feature a sport mode, which gives torque factoring, which, from what I understand, it uses the brake calipers. So, for instance, if to keep you from sliding way too far over on a turn, it uses the brake calipers to kind of, like, for instance, if you're going too far to the right, it grips the left to kind of pull you back around. I believe that's how that works. I've seen videos on it, and I think that's how it works. But when you're launching this car, you will spin tires, and it will get squirrely. Very, very squirrely. Because there's so much, there's 275 pound-feet of torque, which I think Ford did really nicely, because if you look at the other cars in its class, usually the torque is about 10 to 15 lower on the horsepower, but with this car, it's 25 higher, which is really, really cool. But anyway, with the torque factoring, it just kind of keeps you straight, and it just, whenever you launch this car, the only way you can experience it is to drive it itself. But I guess the last thing I love about this car, and this is kind of just an additional reason to buy one in general, is the fact that they're not making them anymore. Which I am very angry about, by the way, because why Ford finally, in 2013, when they came out with the Focus ST, and then I believe it was a year later they came out with the Fiesta ST, correct me if I'm wrong, they might have come out at the same time, but they finally got it right. And this car that I'm driving is the first generation of ST. That's not like the SVT or the you know, like, not to get confused with the RSs and stuff like that they made overseas and stuff like that. But whenever they came out with this car, they finally hit a home run, because they had this car, then they had the Boss 302 of the same year, then they had the Fiesta ST, then they had the 5.0, and then they had the Taurus SHO, which had a twin turbocharged all-wheel drive V6, which was crazy. They finally hit a home run, and then they announced that they are stopping production on almost every single cars. Not 7 years later. The only car they're going to be making is the Mustang, which, if they canceled that, I would be far angrier. But still, they finally did it. After the early 2000s, the bad year of Ford, the early 2000s, which was hit or miss at best, that you would get anything with quality. And then they came out with the ST, and it was like, yeah, they made a car that could compete with a Subaru WRX or a Mazda Speed 3 or something like that, you know, or the FRS. All these four-cylinder sporty cars that came out around that time and stuff like that, they finally made something that could stand up against them, and it put the Focus back in the ring, you know. And on top of that, they made it a four-door family car, so it was like, hey, you have no reason not to buy it now. It's fast, you can fit your kids in the back of it, why don't you want it? They did all that, and they finally hit a home run, and then they're going to stop it. Now, I understand all good things have to come to an end, but it's still sad to see. So, if you are looking to get this car, by now would be the time to buy. They've already jacked up prices a little bit since they're not making them anymore, so that makes them just that more. They're not like crazy collectible, but still, they're gone up a little bit in price because they're desirable now because they're not making them. And it really is an underrated car. So, if you can find one for a good deal, I would say jump on it. Just make sure it fits your situation. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like if you have kids, don't get the expensive leather seats. They'll ruin them. Get something that you can clean. But if it's just you and your wife or your husband or whatever, and you just have friends, get the Recaros. Get everything that fits you. And this one has the crappy Sony sound system, and which isn't horrible, but it's still not worth the extra money that you'd be paying. But by now, since they're not making them brand new anymore, you probably will buy them used anyway, so you really won't pay that much extra for all the upgrades. So keep that in mind. Like, I was comparing this car to another one that was an ST1 package that had just about 20,000 less miles, and it was the same money. So I was like, I'll keep the extra miles. But I really do hope this video helped you guys in deciding if you are in the market to look for a car, because this car, because it really is a well-rounded car. Just overall, it's not perfect in every aspect, but it's really good in about every aspect. Just the linear power band, the way it puts down the power, the feeling it gives you, the all-around experience. The reason why we drive sports cars, they did this so well. At the same time, I can drive this car around town just like it's a normal Focus. You don't have to get on it all the time. You don't have to floor it every single time you go, because this car will not fight you if you just want to go just cruising around. If you just want to ease into it and not go above 4,000 RPMs every time you launch it, just ease onto it. It'll treat you like it's a normal Focus. But there's always that little thing in the background that if you actually want to downshift and push it to the floor, it'll do it just so good every single time. Now, this car does have, as of right now, 106,334 miles, and it has not had a single problem its whole entire life. Before I bought the car, I looked at the Carfax, and it really did not have just maintenance. That's all that was done to it, regular maintenance. So that would be something else I would suggest if you're in the market of looking, is make sure that it didn't have problems. Some STs did have problems, like, for instance, I think the Sony sound system was one of the things that would go out in them, like the touchscreen radio itself would go out. I know they have a recall going around right now for the fuel injectors, which this actually has that. I'm waiting to get my recall, and it really isn't even that major. It doesn't my car doesn't stall like others were doing. When I turn the air conditioning on, it shudders like really bad, and I think that's, or when I'm at idle for a period of time, it'll shudder even if the air conditioning's off. I really think that's from that problem that they were having with the direct fuel injectors, I think. But even that isn't major enough to not buy the car. It's so minute that you barely even notice it, you know. But it has been a very reliable car to me, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I do not regret my decision getting this car, especially because right after I bought it, they announced that they weren't going to be making them anymore. So I was like, oh, I got mine before they raised the prices up on them. But let me know if this helped you in your decision down in the comments below, and definitely go check out the 5 things I hate, because there are some things that I hate about this car. Not anything that I think would hinder you from buying, but again, if it's gonna fit, it needs to fit your situation. So definitely go check that out down in the description below, as well as my Instagram and my iFunny account. I post a lot on there. If you're interested in looking at the Mustang videos, I just came out recently with a exhaust review video that I did on the Mustang. I'll go ahead and link that down in the description as well for you guys to go check out. I think you guys would like that. But be looking forward to more videos on the Focus in the near future. I'm really trying my best to bring you fresh videos about the Focus, but it's kind of tough whenever you work a full-time job. You know, you only have the weekends, and if you're not doing other stuff, you know, it's hard to find the time. So that's why I haven't uploaded in a little while. But I will be trying to come out with I want to come out with a full-blown review video of this car, like I'm talking in depth, like everything, like a 15-minute video, like Redline Reviews does, stuff like that. So, you know, be looking for that in the future. I don't know when it would come out, but it will eventually. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope you all have a wonderful and safe day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.